Hello everyone, I'm Deepti from Maxxcell, an IELTS expert who has trained many students to get their desired score either to get into an university, to study abroad, or to work in a foreign country. In today's video, we will look into the essential grammar rules for the IELTS success. In our previous video, we have gone through how to improve comprehension when it comes to IELTS exam. If you wish to receive updates in relation to the same, then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have also done a series of videos on different sections in IELTS test, and you can always watch them by subscribing to our channel. Now coming back to the video, okay. So today we will see the key grammar rules that are essential for IELTS success, and they are as follows. So we will cater to each one of them one by one. Now grammar plays a crucial role in all four sections of the IELTS exam. So be it writing, speaking, reading, and listening. A strong grasp of grammar helps you express your ideas clearly, okay, and it also helps you to understand complex texts, okay. So if you have a good hold on grammar, then your ideas can be expressed clearly and you can also understand complex text and score high in the IELTS exam. So let us go through the important grammar rules which you need to master when it comes to this particular test. Yes, so the first one being the subject-verb agreement. Now, we all know that whenever we speak any sentence or we write any sentence, it has to be grammatically correct, and at the same time, it has to have subject-verb agreement. Yes, now the subject and verb must agree in number, that is singular and plural. Okay. Now the common mistake which we make is, for example, he go to school every day, which is incorrect. So the correct one is he goes to school every day. So he goes to school every day. So this is the correct statement. It is crucial in writing task 1, that is whenever you're describing trends. Yes, so whenever it comes to writing task 1, which is report writing, and you're describing trends, in that case, this is very much required. Okay, now the number of students have increased. This sentence will be incorrect, and the correct sentence in relation to subject-verb agreement would be the number of students has increased. You understand? So this is how it has to be written, and this is the correct form of subject-verb agreement. Now let us go on to the next one, which you need to follow when it comes to grammar rules. So another essential grammar rule is in relation to your tenses. So you need to have a correct usage of time frames. Now, for example, you have past tense, you have present tense, and you have future tense. Okay, so these are the three tenses which are used when it comes to your speaking or writing. Okay, so it has to be correctly used, and it sometimes in IELTS speaking, mix tense to show variety. So you can mix the tenses to show variety, and past tense is for, now past tense is mainly for historical data. Okay, present tense is mainly used in relation to whatever you are speaking in the context for now, okay, and in the present, whatever is takes place in the present, and when it comes to the future, it is always something which yet to happen, right? Okay, now for example, the chart shows a steady increase. Okay, so this is a simple present tense statement. So chart shows a steady increase. Okay, so this will be a simple present tense statement. Okay, a past tense statement can be sales increased by 20% in 2020. So this is something about past. So sales increased. So you're using a past tense verb. Fine. And in case of future, the trend is expected to rise next year. Okay, so this can be used in relation to the future tense, which is the trend is expected to rise in 2026. Okay, so this is something which we are talking about the future. Now let us go on to the next part, which is articles. Okay, so the next rule which you need to follow in relation to grammar is in relation to articles which are a, and, the, and. Sometimes you don't have to use any article at all. So the rule is use a and an for general nouns. So when do you use a and an in relation to general nouns? Okay, and the for specific nouns. So the you will use for specific nouns. Right? Then now a common mistake which you need to avoid is I saw a Eiffel Tower. Okay, so now what happens is that here when it comes to specific, okay, so this is in relation to specific noun. So Eiffel Tower, it becomes a specific noun. So you have to use the instead of a. So you cannot say I saw a Eiffel Tower. You need to say that I saw the Eiffel Tower. Okay, so this will be the correct statement. Yes. Now, I read a book about IELTS. So when you're speaking about book, you're not telling the name of the book. So it becomes a general noun. So then you will use a because a is used before a consonant sound. So then the correct usage of article would be a in front of a book, which is not having a specific name. Okay, so then this becomes a book. Okay, I read the book you recommended. So it becomes a specific book because it has been recommended to you. Okay, and I love music. No article needed for uncountable noun. So music is something which is uncountable. You never say musics, right? So what happens is that in this case, you will say I love music. So there is no article in relation to music. You follow when it is used in independently. Okay, so no article required. Fine. Okay, so this is certain rules which these are certain rules which you need to follow when it comes to usage of articles, right? So just to recap that a and an in relation to general nouns and that is this and the in relation to specific nouns. Fine. Now one important thing which you need to remember when it comes to articles is that it is used in speaking and writing. Okay, so uh, you need to see to it that you do a correct usage of them and especially to maintain a high score. Okay, so when you, especially in writing, when you are getting the time to check, you need to specifically check whether you have written articles properly or you have used them properly or not. Okay, so now let us go on to the next point, which is complex sentences are enhanced for the enhanced scores. Okay, now what are complex sentences? Now the complex sentences, we use sentence structure. So in whenever we write, okay, or whenever we speak, what we do is we use sentences. Okay, so these sentences are basically in form of a structure. Okay, so what is this structure? So it can be a simple one or it can be a compound or it can be a complex sentence. Okay, so why IELTS rewards varied grammar? So what happens is that what do you say here is that why do you get a high score? Okay, so it all depends upon the type of sentences you use in speaking and in writing. So many a times what happens is that people choose different sentences because they are having a command over the language, or they are very flexible using different sentences. And if you only use simple sentences in your writing or in your speaking, then that is where you don't score high. So as much as possible you try to write compound or complex sentences. Yes, so this is something which you need to use in relation to who getting a high score. Fine. So you can use a mixture of simple and complex sentences if you find it little tough. Otherwise, if you use all these, then it would be a win-win situation. Okay. For example, if the trend continues, unemployment will decrease. Okay. And people choose online courses because they are flexible. Although online learning is convenient, some students prefer traditional classes. Okay, so these are all examples of complex sentences. Okay, now let me write it down quickly for you. So, what are the examples of complex sentences? Is people choose online courses because they are flexible. So, people choose online courses. Why? Because they are flexible. Okay, now people choose online courses. This by itself, it becomes a very simple sentence. So then when you give a reason for that, then it becomes a complex sentence. You follow? So this is one example of the same. Okay, now the trend continues, unemployment will decrease. So this is again an example of a complex sentence. So you need to have a reason, or you need to put a comma, and then you need to state what happens next. Okay, so what is going to be the consequence? So how is the trend showing? So you are not only just talking about the trend, but you are also giving an example. What will be the outcome of the what will be the outcome in the future? Okay. So only the tip which you can use in relation to complex sentences is that as much as possible, try to mix the simple and complex sentences together so that it looks more of a complex sentence. Okay, so this is in relation to your sentences. Now let us go further in relation to the next essential rule, which is required in place of grammar. The one is modal verbs. Now, usage of modal verbs, how you have to put them in a sentence. So can, could, should, might. Okay, so these are modal verbs which are used in a sentence, and you need to see to it that you are using them correctly. So the use of modal verbs for probability, or when do you use them? They are used for probability, okay, or they are used for advice, or they are used for necessity. Okay, now for example, I can speak English fluently. Okay, so this is a ability, right? So this is in relation to ability, for example, and in relation to probability, the economy might improve next year. So this is something which you are giving in a sentence in relation to what is a possibility. Okay, so let us take it one by one. So in relation to ability, when you are going to speak something about able to, so then what you say, how do you use this modal verb? Is that I can speak English fluently. Okay, so I can speak English fluently. So this can is used here. So this is speaking about your ability to speak English. Okay, so this is the first one. The second one, we will take care of the probability, wherein the economy might improve. The economy might improve next year. So this is an example of possibility. Okay, might. So you're using might here for something which can be like a possibility. Okay, you're not sure about it. Then when you're in relation to advice, okay, you always use this modal verb, which is should. Okay, so how do you use it in a sentence? Students should practice every day. So this is an advice which can be given in relation to the IELTS exam. So if you practice every day, what happens? There is a great chance of increasing your score. Okay, because you are able to do it every day. And then the last one is necessity. So in case of necessity, what can be an example statement? You must. So necessity is you must. So this is something which is not included here. So you must. So what is that? You must follow the exam rules. So whatever rules are there in the exam, you must follow the exam rules. Okay, so this is an sentence in which you're making it mandatory for a certain thing to be done, right? So this is in relation to the modern words. Now you know how to use them in relation to ability, possibility, advice, and necessity. Okay, now when you use this modal verbs, what happens is that it boosts your grammatical range. So you need to try to practice to use them in a regular day-to-day English so that you are able to apply it when it comes to your exam as well. Okay, so this is in relation to modal verbs. Now let us go on to the next rule, which is a passive voice. Now, when it comes to passive voice, it is very crucial that you use it for writing task 1. So writing task 1 mainly if it is in relation to academic module, okay, so it will be the report writing, okay. So when it is report writing and or in relation to letter writing when it comes to the general module. So this is in relation to general, this is in relation to academic, okay. Now, the passive rule or the passive voice is to focus on the action rather than the doer. So, what happens is that whenever you are speaking, okay, or you're writing in relation to passive voice, it has to be focused on the action of the sentence. So, whatever is the action, you need to focus on that. And it's very common when it comes to task 1, as it is mentioned over here. So it is quite common in task 1 when it comes to the writing section. Okay, so for example, now let us see one example of what can be written when it comes to the active voice and what can be used in relation to passive voice. So the active voice example sentence can be people consume a lot of fast food. Okay, so what happens is that this is in relation to active voice, and when it comes to the same thing, if you had to write it in passive voice, then a lot of fast food is consumed by people. Okay, so a lot of fast food is consumed by people. So this becomes the passive voice. So as much as possible, try to use it in your writing task 1. Okay. So for example, describing processes and trends. So the data was collected in 2023 or the data, whatever data was collected in the last year. Okay. So what happens is that, so you impart in task 1, you are always describing processes or you are describing trends in relation to graph. It can be pie chart, okay, bar graph, line graph. So in relation to the same, you definitely have to use lot of passive voice. Okay, so this will be applicable over there. So whenever you're framing sentences in relation to passive voice, see to it that it has to be grammatically correct. Okay, now let us go on to the next rule which you need to follow is the conditionals, if clauses. So what is this? Now using conditionals for hypothetical and real situations. So something like hypothetical or so in speaking, especially, okay, when which is the discussion part. So in this discussion part, that is part 3, you are asked a lot of hypothetical questions. So what is your opinion or what do you think? And they ask a lot of why type of questions, right? So mainly, and in writing task 2, okay, wherein you are posed with a question, especially the essay type of questions. So that is where you can always use hypothetical situations and it will help you in your sentences. Okay. Now, for example, first conditional, it can be in relation to future possibility. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. Okay. So this is in relation to future possibility. Okay. Second condition, it can be hypothetical. Now, what is this hypothetical? If hypothetical can be if I had more time. So in relation to this, I would travel. So if I had more time, I would travel. So this is hypothetical. So hypothetical can be if I had more time, okay, I would travel. If I had more time, I would travel. So this is a hypothetical sentence. Now, and future, the active, that is the real situations can be if you study hard, okay, you will pass. So this is in relation to who the condition. So if, so you are talking mainly if. So if you study hard, you will pass. If I had more time, I would travel. If I had studied harder, I would have scored higher. So do you understand how you're using if? So this is a conditional sentences. So if clauses are used in relation to a lot when it comes to your part 3 discussion or in relation to essay type of questions which are in task 2 of writing section. So whenever you use this type of conditional clauses, that is if clauses, then it shows that you are using advanced, you are able to use advanced grammar and you have lot of knowledge in relation to your sentence construction. So this is what happens when you are attempting the exam. And if you have knowledge of all this essential grammar rules, then it becomes easy for you to score well. Now let us go on to the next rule, essential rule, which is relative clauses. Now everybody knows what is this who, which, that, where, whose. Okay, so these are called as relative clauses. Okay, and it helps you to add details to the nouns. Now it will help you to create longer and more descriptive sentences. Now, whenever you use these, okay, relative clauses, which are who, which, that, where, and whose, then it helps you to create a longer sentence and a more descriptive one. Okay, so these two things happen when you use this relative clauses. The book that I read was amazing. Okay, so what happens is that when you're using that, okay, so how you use the first example, the book I read was amazing. Okay, so here that. Okay, so this that is coming here in between. Okay, now the next one can be the scientist who discovered gravity was Isaac Newton. Okay, So now you're not just saying the scientist discovered gravity. He was Isaac Newton, but you are saying who here. So you can see how who is used. Okay, I want to visit Japan, which is known for its culture. So again, which is used, who is used. Okay, now to avoid short sentences, use relative clauses to expand ideas. So what happens, what this relative clauses help you to do? They help you to expand your ideas. Okay, so this is something which happens when it comes to the relative clauses. So if you are able to use them in the sentence, then it helps you to make sentences grammatically correct. Okay, now the next rule which you need to follow is in relation to prepositions, which is in, on, at, by, and for. Now, if you know what are prepositions, they help you in relation to time, place, and moment. Okay, so when if you know how to apply it, okay, you should know those rules of application when it comes to the preposition. So if you know how to apply the preposition, then automatically you will avoid common mistakes. I was born on 1955. So I was born on 1955. So can you see this? So what happens here is that whenever you are using year, okay, so the preposition which has to be used is in and not on. So it has to be in 1955. So when it comes to time, okay, now when it comes to time, there are certain rules which you need to follow. Okay, and if you know this, then it becomes much easier. So when it comes to time, so in is used in relation to the year. Okay, so it is this 1955. It can be anything, 2020 or something like that. And when it comes to days, it is on. So for example, on a Monday. Okay, and when it comes to the exact time in relation to watch or clock, then it comes as at. Okay, so at 5 p.m. You followed? So when it comes to the year, it is in. When it comes to days, it is on. And when it comes to the exact time, it is at. So these are the different prepositions which can be used. Okay, so once you know about this, you will not make any mistakes. Automatically, you're using correct grammar. Fine. So this is in relation to the time. Okay. The next thing what you need to know is that at in relation to place. Now, when it comes to place, okay. So if you are in a specific, city, okay. So then it becomes in. Okay, so it can be like I'm in London, I'm in New York, so something like that. Okay, so when it comes to city, it is in. Okay, so when you speak about any street, okay, so it is become on the, okay, and when it comes to any particular place like office, then it becomes at. You followed? So this is how the preposition changes in relation to place. And when it comes to movement, okay, what happens is that if it is a bigger place like market, then you will say go to the market. Okay, so go to the market. And if it is like a room, then you will say walk into the room. You follow? So what happens is that in relation to time, there is different usage of preposition. In relation to place, there is different usage, and in relation to the place, in relation to different places, there is a different usage. So once you know the rules, automatically you will be able to score high. So if you misuse it, again your score goes down. So this is something which you need to remember when it comes to your usage of preposition. Now, Now let us go on to the last point, which is how to avoid common grammar mistakes. So you need to follow this strictly so that you are not using incorrect grammar. Okay. Now, how do you do this? Okay. So common mistakes. Now, common mistakes which you have to avoid are he don't like coffee. Now, this sentence would be incorrect, and the correct sentence would be he doesn't like coffee. Okay, so this is something you have to use. Doesn't is the correct usage. You cannot use don't. Okay, so this is something you need to follow. She has went to London. So this is again incorrect. What will be the correct one? She has gone to. So the correct usage is she has gone to London. Okay. Now the book is more better. So now you cannot use more in front of a comparative. If, okay. So what you need to use is the book is better. Okay. So if you know how to use comparative, if you know how to use superlative, okay, then in that case, what happens is that the usage of grammar remains in its correct form. Okay, so the book is better. You cannot include more in front of an, okay, in front of the better. Fine. Okay, so this has shouldn't be used. Okay, so this will become incorrect. So avoid double comparatives. Okay, so what happens is more is also a comparative word and better also is a comparative word. So both the words you cannot use together. So you have to use it individually. Okay, so that is what is required. Now, just few tips which you need to take away when you are following the grammar rules. So these are the 10 essential grammar rules which you need to follow when you're answering the IELTS exam. Okay. Now, the smart thing to do would be to use a variety of sentences. Okay. Avoid the repetition. So smart thing, what you need to do is use a variety of sentences. Okay, so this is something which you need to do. Then second is avoid repetition. Okay, so avoid repetition. Then after that, you need to check for your verb tenses. Okay, so this is something which you need to do. And also use linking words. So what are the linking words? You can use linking words like however, moreover, okay, therefore. Okay, so these are the linking words which you can use and practice your speaking and writing in relation to create accuracy. So practice for accuracy. Okay, so these are few things which you need to do. So you start using variety of sentences, avoid repetition, check for grammar tenses which is past, present and future. Start using linking words, however, moreover, therefore, which will help you in order to frame the sentences and also to formulate ideas and practice more often in order to build your accuracy. So with this, we will sum up this video in relation to essential grammar rules for IELTS exam. Okay. Yes. So until the next video, thank you so much. Bye bye.